What can I say about Sonic 06 that hasn't been said before? The gameplay is bad. The story is even worse. Okay, maybe not that bad, but still bad. It feels like the epitome of a first draft with some truly why-though decisions. Retconning Blaze even though she had a strong introduction in Sonic Rush, having zero rules for their time travel mechanics. Elise. But their biggest blunder is their mishandling of Silver the Hedgehog. Even with his introduction game, it's like they have no idea what they want to do with his character. He wasn't strong enough to stand on his own, so they saddled him up with Blaze. Throughout the story, the plot kind of just happens to him instead of driving it forward. And to this day, the writers can't seem to make up their minds on whether he should stay with the main cast or actually live in the future that's apparently constantly in peril. So, I wanted to take a crack at fixing this. Without further ado, here's my rewrite of Sonic 06. Something I agree with Garrulous's rewrite is that with the naming scheme of Soliana and Sol Aris, these things should have ties to the Soul Dimension. So our story begins there. A millennium ago, a group of warriors stood exhausted and bloodied but victorious. The Soul Emeralds, burning with power, pulsed right with the level of exertion used. They have just defeated Solaris, splitting the ancient god's soul in half. The halves were contained in 2 red gems, but they pulsed wildly when near each other. Desperate to escape and rejoin, not wanting to risk another catastrophe, it was decided that just keeping the gems separated wasn't enough. Solaris was crafty, manipulative. Someone would fall under his influence eventually and try to release and rejoin his halves. The original plan to defeat Solaris was banishment, but they thought it would be cruel to just burden another dimension with their failures. But now that Solaris has been contained, storing one of the halves there seemed like the safest option. One of the few remaining warriors volunteered to go. Knowing that it was a one-way trip, his mission was to hide the gem deep where nobody could ever find it, to ensure no one ever fell victim to the gem's constant whispers. And in the worst case where someone did and freed the entity in the gem, there would be no way to fuse the 2 halves together in separate dimensions. So after a tearful goodbye to his friends, the Queen calls on the Sol Emeralds again, which spin and burn bright, until there's a flash of light and the warrior is gone. The warrior, now in Sonic's dimension, the Chaos dimension, set to work to hide the gem. He ends up building a temple to store it in. In an attempt to silence the gem further, he built a staff around it. While it softened the gem's whispers, the staff only made the gem's influence more abstract and direct. And when the homesickness became too much to bear, the warrior started to journal about his home and the Sol Emeralds, not wanting to forget anything. But while he was resistant to the gem's influence, he wasn't immune. His writings became skewed, detailing an ultimate power, only available when 2 gems become one. Back in the Soul Dimension, the Queen realized she was the only one truly immune to the gem's influence, as it was quiet to her. Not knowing a safe space to hide it away, the Queen decided to just seal the gem inside herself. This silenced the gem entirely and amped the Queen's powers, giving her control of flames. Thousands of years go by. Eggman Nega discovers the warrior's temple. While Nega finds the writings about the Sol Emeralds, the rest is too withered to read. While Nega finds the staff, it offers little power. Mephiles, just like Iblis, has faded with time. The separation slowly deteriorated both of them. Mephiles knows as he is now he doesn't have the strength to fuse with his other half, doesn't think Iblis would be in a better state, but he can still whisper in Nega's ear. He influences Nega to travel back in time to try to obtain both the Sol Emeralds and the Chaos Emerald for ultimate power. This leads to the events of Sonic Rush. Nothing changes in that story, but in the background, past Mephiles awakes in his scepter, and the present Eggman finds it afterwards. Eggman thinks his future self was a fool for misunderstanding what the ancient texts said. The ultimate power isn't the Sol Emeralds, it's combining 2 ancient gems. Eggman already has one. Now, he just needs the other from the Soul Dimension. Now we flash forward to an undisclosed amount of time. An 8-year-old Silver the Hedgehog surrounded by cyan light floats above the burning wreckage of a city. He's ragged, clearly exhausted from just finishing a grueling battle. He squeaks out a disbelieving, "I did it," before staggering out of the sky. He barely manages to catch himself and angle his body towards the roof of a ruined skyscraper. He lands roughly on his back, but he contrasts the exhaustion with a giddy laugh. Looking up at the red sky still filled with smoke, he smiles wide, reaching up a hand towards it. But the exhaustion wins out and his arm collapses back beside him. Silver takes pained breaths, but giggles still come out with every hitch. He slowly forces himself to his knees, saying how he needs to tell her. Cyan light encompasses him again as Silver starts floating. He hovers choppily, clearly making an effort to remain airborne, but his delight is obvious. After a couple of moments, he takes off slowly, giggling all the while. Silver Crash lands in front of a military facility. Soldiers swarm out as soon as he hits the ground. But Silver's eyes are searching the crowd. A woman runs out frantically, shoving her way through as Silver pushes himself to his feet again. The moment she's in front of Silver, she drops to her knees. Her arms outstretched, clearly wanting to hug him, but she hesitates. Her eyes cataloging his injuries. Silver doesn't hesitate, collapsing into her arms and hugging her as tight as he can. He mutters a giddy, "I did it, Elise," before finally passing out. Here's some backstory on Elise's and Silver's relationship. Elise's father, Duke, was one of the head scientists behind Project Silver. Taking inspiration from Project Shadow, Silver was engineered to be the perfect counter to Iblis. Silver was made with Mother Wisp DNA, pure energy being the only thing that could smother Iblis's flames. Duke was adamant about Project Silver being a success so he could give Elise a better future. However, shortly after risking everything to gain the Mother Wisp DNA, Duke is killed by Iblis. Elise followed in her father's footsteps and decided to take over the project. She has a maternal big sister bond with Silver as she raised him. She always called him the world's hope and talked about all the things they could do once Iblis is defeated and they rebuild the world. However, the defeat of Iblis only revealed a new problem. The planet itself is unstable, like it lost the last thread keeping it together, and scientists start scrambling to stop the world from breaking apart at its seams. Silver, who's still a child, catches how stressed Elise is. He thought happily ever after would come after defeating Iblis, but Elise looks just, if even more so, stressed. He wants to do something to make the world better, but he was crafted with the sole purpose of defeating Iblis. There's nothing left for him to fight, just complex equations and failing simulations of trying to stabilize the planet's core. Silver is given increasingly desperate missions to gather any data he can with a device Elise gave him. This is where Mephiles approaches him, disguised as Shadow. Mephiles' form is barely corporeal, and it's clear it takes great effort just for him to reveal himself to Silver. He tells Silver that he was the first ultimate life form but lost his form, failing to stop Iblis. Silver is wary but trusting, Elise having told him how he was created with Project Shadow in mind. With how frequently he's sent out, he barely has time to see Elise. This allows Mephiles space to slot into Silver's support system, because outside of Elise, Mephiles would be the only person who doesn't treat Silver as an expendable weapon, telling Silver that he's entitled to life with Elise after all of this is over instead of dying trying to record data from an unstable core, because more than anybody else, Silver and Elise have earned a happy ending. This happens over the course of a few weeks, Silver becoming more open to listen to this ghost. The more frazzled and desperate Elise looks, the more near-death experiences he has journeying to the planet's core to get the same data over and over. Mephiles grooms Silver to listen to him, to trust him, to crave his approval along with Elise. He plays dad, and after comforting Silver due to a fire blast that burned him pretty badly and destroyed his recording device, Mephiles knows Silver is finally ready to accept his mission. Mephiles tells Silver that the only way to stabilize the world would be by using the emeralds. Silver asks where they are, and Mephiles says they were destroyed long ago. But if Silver were to go back in time, he could grab the emeralds and use them to heal the world. Silver asks if it would be bad if he took something from the past. Mephiles tells him that it wouldn't be. The only people who used the emeralds before were the wicked ones who destroyed them, Sonic and Blaze. Silver taking them to the future right when they were set to disappear from that time period won't hurt anything here. Mephiles also tells Silver not to seek out his past self, as Mephiles was too stubborn and weak to do what needed to be done to stop Sonic and Blaze, saying firmly that his past self believed the best in his friends and would likely be unwilling to listen. Silver agrees, and Mephiles, using his connection to his past self, sends Silver back in time. Establishing my time travel rules, Mephiles can only send Silver back to one spot in time, and only because everything was aligned for him to do so. This is where I borrow from Garrulous's rewrite again. Eggman used the Chaos Emeralds and the staff to pull the city of Soliana from Blaze's dimension to Sonic's. This is because he timed use of the Chaos Emeralds when the Sol gems were burning bright during the Festival of the Sun. Not wanting to risk another merger, Eggman decided the best play would be just to pull the city over, because readings for the second ancient gem are concentrated in that area. So it was the syncing of the two sets of emeralds, coupled with a flare of past Mephiles' powers, that allowed future Mephiles to send Silver back in time. He does not have the strength or the right conditions to send Silver to any other time period. Sending Silver back weakened Mephiles considerably, so he's quiet in the past. Mephiles attached himself to Silver's inhibitor rings, dormant in there until he has the strength to wake up. Now for goals. Sonic and friends are helping Blaze look for the Chaos and Sol Emeralds to send Soliana back to the right dimension. The concentrated blast scattered both sets of emeralds when the city was forcibly pulled over. Eggman is searching Soliana for the ancient gem, not knowing it's in Blaze, and running interference. While he doesn't need the emeralds anymore per se, he sends robots to play keep away with Sonic's friends to keep them distracted from what he's actually doing. Silver is looking for the emeralds to bring to the future. Mephiles barely has a physical form, but emeralds help restore him. He's weak, so his plan is to absorb his past self, then fuse with Iblis. He can only talk to Silver during certain intervals, and gets stronger the more emeralds Silver has. Jumping to Silver's first encounter with Sonic. Sonic is holding the blue Chaos Emerald and Silver confronts him to take it. Something important I want to highlight is that Silver is completely outclassed by all our heroes. Not because he's weak, it's because he's completely inexperienced. By the time Silver faced Iblis, the creature was little more than a mindless beast. Silver did not have to outthink him, or use anything more than brute force to win that fight, as grueling as it was. It was a battle of attrition. So up against other people with powers who have years of combat experience, he can barely do any damage. His telekinesis can be deadly if he manages to get a hold of anyone, but he can't catch Sonic. All this to say, Silver gets a very humbling reality check when he faces Sonic for the first time. Not only can Silver not touch him, Sonic doesn't even appear to be taking the fight seriously. Silver never thought he would just be able to waltz in, grab the emeralds, and go, but for the first time, he has real genuine terror of the thought of failing his mission. His moves become more desperate and wild, trying to overwhelm Sonic with multiple projectiles in hopes Sonic will drop the emerald. But it doesn't work. Sonic dodges everything while laughing playfully. The shift in demeanor eventually catches Sonic's attention. At first, Sonic was having fun during the battle. Silver's powers were awesome to look at, and a fun time to work around. Sonic also couldn't resist teasing the kid, telling him nice try or taunting that he was too slow, until he saw the look of desperation on Silver's face. That's when it hit Sonic that this battle wasn't an ego thing. The kid really did see this fight as one for life and death. One, by the tears starting to gleam in his eyes, that he thought he was losing. It makes Sonic hesitate. He asks Silver what's wrong and if he was done fighting so Sonic could help him, even joking that a bunch of his friends have tried to kill him beforehand. Now Silver hesitates. Mephiles had told him that Sonic was wicked and ruthless, that the blue hedgehog had helped bring about the end of the world. But right now, Sonic seems sincere. As Sonic approaches Silver with raised, placating hands and a soft voice, Silver uses the opportunity to finally grab Sonic with his powers. Sonic doesn't act scared, though. In fact, the blue hedgehog still has that gentle, appeasing smile, even making another joke about how he doesn't mind talking like this. Silver doesn't know where to go from here. Sonic sees the hesitation and says that he can tell Silver didn't expect to get this far, which is fair. Nobody catches Sonic the Hedgehog. Then he turns a little serious and says, but a lot of people tend to need his help, and he's willing to bet Silver is one of them. In an earnest voice, Sonic promises Silver that if he just tells him what's wrong, he'll help, and Sonic never breaks his promises. Silver looks truly torn, but before he could say anything, Blaze's voice cut in, demanding that he let Sonic go. Before Sonic can tell her to stop, Blaze throws a fireball at Silver, making him drop Sonic with a squeak of fear. Feeling like he's been tricked and knowing he can't take both of them, Silver rips the Chaos Emerald out of Sonic's hand and flies off. Sonic goes to follow, but Blaze stops him, saying that their universes are at risk of merging again, so Sonic can do nothing but let the kid run off. For Silver, if fighting Sonic wasn't ideal, he finds fighting Blaze even more scary. Blaze reminds Silver of Iblis in all the worst ways. He has trauma surrounding fire. After he managed to defeat Iblis, he didn't think he would ever have to deal with the stuff again. But here he is, dealing with a burn on his shoulder, another enemy who wants to burn him. She's like Iblis, but with more control, and that terrifies him. Sonic took note of the reaction. Silver seemed determined when he fought him, but he just seemed scared facing Blaze. While the kid looked at both of them like they've done something wrong, something Sonic still hasn't been able to parse out, he looked at Blaze like she's hurt him before. And yeah, she did with that fireball, but that was more graze than anything else. Sonic knew Blaze, and if she truly wanted to hurt the kid, she could have aimed her blast for a more direct hit. And even if the kid was green, he certainly came ready for a fight. And Sonic refused to believe Silver wasn't ready to be hit back. Even though Sonic didn't exactly attack Silver back in kind, he did check some of the kid's hits, really just tagged him to show Silver that he could touch him. Surely that wasn't the first real hit the kid ever had in a fight. It has to go deeper than that. Another mystery in a day full of them. All Sonic could do was to tell Blaze to not attack the kid even if he tried to fight her. Maybe just try to scare him off. Something Sonic didn't think needed much prompting. Blaze took Sonic's words with a grain of salt. She didn't see the point of showing any more restraint to one of her enemies. For all they knew, the kid, maybe a ploy from Eggman, who was once again endangering the kingdom she swore to protect. She was already pulling her punches. making sure she did no true damage. But she was resolved to bring this mysterious assailant down if she got the chance. She didn't have the luxury of time. But that resolution only lasted until she actually faced the kid. And Sonic's words suddenly made a lot more sense. The silver hedgehog had actually squeaked when they ran into each other. He was holding a Sol Emerald, something Blaze immediately honed in on. Sure, the kid had tried to puff out his chest, saying he wasn't giving it to her, and even got into a fighting stance. But it was done with a clear undercurrent of fear of her. So she simply asked him if they met before. He looked surprised at her question, but he didn't lower his stance, said that he wouldn't let them trick him again. Sonic had filled her in on the brief conversation he had with the kid, so Blaze softened slightly, saying that while she doesn't know what's wrong, both she and Sonic will help him. When her eyes land back on the Sol Emerald, Silver tenses. She says that he can even hold on to the emerald, that they can both walk back to meet up with Sonic. For just a brief moment, it looks like Silver is going to agree, until a blast suddenly hits Blaze, knocking her back. She quickly gets her feet under her, but falters when her head starts pulsing. She clutches it in pain. By the time the ache fades, Silver is gone. Like Sonic, she's sure something else is happening that's larger than the kid, and it makes her eyes narrow. In the proximity of his other half, Mephiles awakens. Both he and Iblis pulsed in their desire to rejoin, which threw Blaze back. Silver is absolutely relieved and a bit overwhelmed to see Mephiles. He arrived back in the past alone, with his only directions being to retrieve the emeralds and to take out Sonic or Blaze if he saw them. However, he falters when he sees the angry look on Mephiles' face. The ghost hedgehog bites out that he already told Silver not to trust anything Blaze or Sonic says. Silver flinches, hesitantly saying that those two don't seem that bad. Mephiles snaps that he told Silver that's how they tricked him last time. Or did he forget the whole reason they came back here? Silver looks crestfallen. Mephiles holds the glare for a moment before sighing. He runs a ghostly hand through Silver's quills, telling him that it's good he at least got 2 of the emeralds, but imploring Silver to remember the mission. Mephiles can only do so much in this form, so he won't be able to interfere if Silver gets caught again. Silver promises that he'll do better. Mephiles sighs again and says that he knows that he will. Hesitantly, Silver says, "I love you, Dad," which Mephiles returns half-heartedly. Throughout his time with Silver, Mephiles had gotten pretty good at trickling affection, just enough to keep the boy dependent, just enough to keep the boy aching for approval. He can't believe this pathetic wretch was able to destroy Iblis, no matter how weakened they were, due to the actions of those damned hedgehogs. But Iblis truly was reduced to nothing more to a mere beast over the centuries. And to think a mere child could still take out his other half, no matter. That's why Mephiles is here. That's why he's tolerating this. This sniveling child is so desperate for any form of connection. And better yet, he was using Shadow's face to do it. Even though he killed the black hedgehog himself, it wasn't enough. The bastard had died with a smirk on his face after ensuring that Mephiles and Iblis could never merge. After making it so Mephiles never quite had a fully physical form again, coupled with the blue hedgehog, who almost managed to take Iblis out before he was killed, Mephiles had a clear vendetta against Sonic and Shadow. While they failed to prevent him from merging the universes in the first timeline, they did manage to stop his own fusion, which is why he tolerates the boy. Once he fuses with his past self and has his full form back, Mephiles will be able to merge with Iblis immediately, and then he'll take pleasure in killing both hedgehogs again. The conviction on Silver's face only sweetens the reward, because Mephiles already decided how best to deal with him. How delicious the agony on his face will be when Mephiles can finally make his disdain clear. How sweetly will the brat break? It will be glorious. He might even keep the kid alive a little longer, just so the despair could marinate. He deserves several lifetimes of agony for daring to kill Mephiles' other half. After all, if Mephiles is stuck with this humiliating facade for a bit, why not indulge in the rewards for just a bit as well? Silver has several run-ins with Sonic's friends, but I'm focusing on his encounter with Shadow. Despite Mephiles telling Silver his past self wouldn't listen to reason, Silver tries asking Shadow to hand over the green Chaos Emerald. Shadow refuses, saying that he's going to bring Silver in to answer some questions. Silver's fight with the Black Hedgehog didn't go any better than his fight with Sonic. Chaos control making it almost impossible to pin Shadow down, and Shadow was more willing to throw out real hits, unlike Sonic and Blaze. Silver does manage to get lucky when Rouge and Omega show up. He quickly grabs them and throws them at Shadow, using the distraction to grab the Chaos Emerald and fly off. In the background of all of this, Eggman was able to determine that the second ancient gem he's been looking for is in Blaze's forehead, which brings us to the big confrontation. Silver is feeling disheartened. He's only managed to secure 2 Chaos Emeralds and 1 Sol Emerald. But Mephiles tells him that's fine because the rest are all about to be gathered in one place. Silver says there's no way he can beat all the heroes in a group. He's only been able to get what he could through pure luck. He's more liable to lose the 3 emeralds than to make off with the remaining 11. Mephiles says he doesn't have to. As long as they're in the same area, he'll be able to pull all of them into the future with Silver. He just needs Silver to focus on grabbing 2 things for him: the staff from Eggman and the gem in Blaze's forehead. This leads to a giant confrontation between Eggman and Sonic and company. Eggman is trying to grab Blaze with his bad nicks, but the heroes are running interference. Blaze is completely incapacitated. Being in such close proximity with the staff, her forehead is throbbing with the pain, bringing her to her knees. This is where Silver swoops in, using the chaos to yank the staff from Eggman's hand. Seeing Blaze on the ground, he encompasses her gem with his telekinesis and pulls it out of her head. Blaze's agonized scream makes the battlefield go quiet. All eyes land on her and Silver. Silver's face is pale, and there's a fine tremor in his body as he looks at Blaze. She fell limp as soon as he yanked her gem out, and Silver looked on in disbelief, believing that he killed her. But he snaps out of it quickly when Mephiles forms, shouting, "Now, boy!" Using his powers, Silver manages to grab the remaining emeralds as everyone is still in shock. They spin and pulse wildly in the air, and after a bright flash of light, Mephiles is floating in the air with a malicious smile and manic laugh, holding Blaze's gem in his hand triumphantly. The staff, along with both sets of emeralds, clatter to the ground, gray and dull. Silver, still shaken up over taking a life, flies up to Mephiles, saying that they did it and they need to go, clearly wanting comfort. Mephiles, who's finally gotten what he wanted, decides there's no reason to keep up the ruse. He backhands Silver out of the sky with a sickening crack and drops his disguise. All Silver can say as he clutches his cheek is a meek "Dad." Mephiles starts cackling, saying that he always hated when Silver called him that, and now that he's done with him, he doesn't have to tolerate it anymore. Silver starts shaking his head, desperately asking Mephiles what's wrong with him. Mephiles gives a cruel smile and says how Silver's always been stupid, so he'll put it bluntly. He tricked him. He's not Shadow. He killed the Black Hedgehog himself before Iblis ravaged the world, and now Silver just ensured that Mephiles can do it again. This mentally breaks Silver. He falls to his knees, putting his head in his hands, and starts saying no over and over. Mephiles laughs again, and Sonic and everyone who is watching finally snap out of their shock. Sonic and Shadow go for a homing attack, but they're blocked. Mephiles says that he doesn't have time to kill them all again right now, but he promises to be back after both mergers are successful. Then he flies off. Everybody stands in shock for a moment until Blaze gives a low groan. That snaps everyone out of it. Amy, who's been cradling Blaze on the ground, tearfully says that Blaze is alive, and they need to get her help. People start to move until Rogue asks what they should do about the kid. Everyone looks over at Silver, who doesn't seem to register anything said. He's still curled up, still crying, somewhat hypoventilating, muttering sorry Elise over and over. Everyone frowns. Sonic zips over to him and hesitantly places a hand on his shoulder. The touch snaps Silver out of it as he uses his power to fling Sonic back. Sonic catches himself and raises out his hands placatingly. He tries to say that nobody is going to hurt him, but Silver isn't hearing it. Silver looks around wildly, saying no, please, and that he's sorry. When Sonic tries to take a small step forward, Silver gives another terrified shout, pushes everyone back, and takes off into the air. Sonic goes to follow, but Shadow says to leave him. Sonic hisses out that they can't just leave the kid, but Shadow firmly says that they don't have time for this. That Blaze needs help, and whatever Mephiles is planning is literally the end of the world. Sonic looks off in the direction Silver took off, but Tails' reluctant agreement has him faltering. Tails says that Shadow is right, and they need to find Mephiles now and help Blaze. Silver's going to have to wait. Gritting his teeth, clearly not liking this, Sonic finally stands down. Together, the group moves to regroup and get Blaze medical treatment. To say Sonic was pissed about what happened would be an understatement. While he's not 100% on the specifics, it's obvious that the kid was used. And since all they can do is wait while Tails tries to track Mephiles while Blaze recovers, he's determined to go try and find Silver. Shadow stops him from leaving base, saying that they need him here. Sonic says that he's fast and can be back when they call him. But right now someone needs to find the kid. Shadow calmly says that Silver is not the priority. Sonic snaps, saying that while Shadow may not care about a hurt kid, he's not going to sit around and let someone suffer because they're not a priority. But his rant is cut short by Shadow punching the wall of a nearby home. Half of the structure collapses. That's when Sonic fully looks at him. Shadow's eyes are blazing, chaos energy flaring, and he's shaking in barely suppressed rage. In a low, dangerous voice, he asks if Sonic thinks he's the only one disgusted, that the bastard used his image to do that to a child. And while, of course, the kid needs support, it won't matter if whatever terrible future Silver came to prevent happens again. So Sonic needs to get his priorities straight, help them find Mephiles, and end him. Sonic looks at Shadow like he's seeing him for the first time and nods his head. Shadow takes a breath to calm himself and says that Tails sent him to bring Sonic inside. Tails says he thinks he has a way to help restore both sets of emeralds. As the pair walk back, Sonic thinks about apologizing, but instead says that Shadow can have first dibs on the creep. Shadow scoffs and says that was a given. To keep it vague, the plan is to use the zenith of the summer solstice to restore the emeralds, though it's a gamble if it will work for the Chaos Emeralds along with the Sol Gems. The group separates to get everything set up for the celebration of the sun, and while alone, Shadow hears a child crying. He pauses and then follows the sound. He finds Silver curled up sobbing softly. Shadow walks up to him. Silver's breath hitches, but he doesn't retreat. Shadow simply sits down next to him. He doesn't say anything, just sits in silence, letting Silver take the time to compose himself. Once Silver's tears die down, Shadow decides to be blunt. He asks if he's really Silver's father in the future. Silver flinches. First he says yes, then he says no, before saying pitifully that he doesn't know. Then even more pitifully, he says that he thought he was. Shadow hums, making it clear that he's giving Silver room to talk. Silver continues to say that he was made in Shadow's image. That's what Elise always told him. That they followed the blueprint to make the world's hope. Silver laughed self-deprecatingly at that. Even after giving everything he could, Silver didn't feel like he was able to give anybody hope. So when Shadow appeared out of the blue, it felt like a huge relief. Silver says that Shadow, before correcting Mephiles with a hitch, gave him hope. That Silver could actually save the world. But all Silver has done is abandon everyone in his timeline he was supposed to save, ensured an even worse future for them, and messed up the present as well. Shadow surprises Silver by putting a hand on his shoulder, saying that he understands that pain all too well, that several people had played on his connections multiple times to manipulate him, making it hard to trust, making him not even want to try. Black Doom has done it enough times. Silver squeaks out Black Doom, still reeling from the touch. Shadow squeezes his shoulder and says that it looks like the fake didn't know everything about him, saying plainly that it's someone who reminds him of Mephiles. After a moment, Silver desperately asks how Shadow kept moving forward. Shadow says that it's hard and most times he feels like he's stuck in the past, but he remembers a promise he made. One that keeps him in the present, to protect the Earth, and he thinks that Silver made that same promise. Silver sniffles and nods. Shadow gives his shoulder one last squeeze and goes to stand, outstretching his hand. He asks Silver if he's ready to help keep his promise. Silver says yes, shaky but resolute. He takes Shadow's hand, holding his gaze. Together, they head back to the base. Silver lingers nervously at the threshold. Despite what Shadow said, he's tried to kill everyone in that room. Shadow just tells him to join the club. He's tried to kill everyone in there a few times, especially Sonic. That gives Silver the strength to walk in. He sees Blaze sitting up in bed, bandaged, weary but alive. Everyone freezes when they see him. He expects people to yell at him. Instead, everyone just starts asking if he's okay. Amy asks if she can look at his cheek. Silver doesn't know how to respond. Instead, his eyes hone in on Blaze. He looks down, shamefaced, and mutters that he's sorry. Blaze gets out of bed despite Amy's protest and walks over. Silver flinches, but he doesn't move. Blaze gently lifts his head and says that she's not mad and asks if Mephiles hurt him, even turning his head to look at his cheek. It makes Silver tear up. Blaze just takes his hand and softly pulls him over to the bed. Silver lets her lead him. While Amy tends to the two, Rouge walks up to Shadow, says that she knew he couldn't lead the kid. Shadow just hums and tisks when Sonic gives him a wide grin. The final battle takes place at the zenith of the summer solstice. While it restores both sets of emeralds, it also frees Iblis. And he and Mephiles finally fuse into Solaris, roaring in triumph as it begins to merge the universes together. Sonic and Shadow go super to fight Solaris, while everyone else works with Eggman to use his machine to stop the merger. Looking through the Warrior's old journal to see how Solaris was defeated the first time, Blaze, who's still weak, recognizes what the journal is depicting and asks Silver to help her. Silver is hesitant, completely terrified to fight Solaris and afraid of messing it up, saying that actual heroes should handle this. Blaze reminds Silver that he is a hero and he defeated Iblis before. Now she needs his help to do it again. Using the Soul Emeralds and channeling her inner fire, Blaze goes burning while Silver goes super. Mephiles made a mistake underestimating Silver. After all, Silver was made to be a direct counter to Iblis's flames, which means he can counter Solaris's. While Shadow and Sonic distract the monster, Silver uses his telekinesis to fully encompass the god and smother the fire. Then he pulls them apart. While Blaze reabsorbs Iblis, Silver compresses Mephiles until he's back in his non-corporeal form, and even further until he's nothing but a flame. With grim satisfaction, Silver blows the flame out. using both sets of emeralds and Eggman's machine. The universes are separated once again, and Soliana is sent back to its home dimension. When the dust clears, the day is saved, and everyone is celebrating. Silver stands anxiously off to the side, unsure where he slots in. Sonic notices and zips over to him. He tells Silver that he should be celebrating too. They save the future. Silver looks morose before whispering that it's more like he erased the future. He's been thinking about it, and what Mephile said. His future wasn't just this world's future. It was both. And if that merger never happened, if Silver prevented it from happening, then he just erased his whole world, didn't he? Silver clutches himself tightly as he lets out a borderline hysterical sound. Wounded and raw. It makes the whole group go quiet. Silver miserably says Elise and how he didn't even get to say bye to her. For a moment, nobody knows what to say, but Shadow walks up to Silver and merely places a hand on his shoulder. The contact has Silver hitching out a sob, but Shadow doesn't say anything, just lets him sit with the pain. After a beat, Silver wetly says that he doesn't have a home anymore. Sonic grimaces before plastering on a smile. He tells Silver that's not true, that he's welcome to come hang out with him in Tails, and that everyone there would be happy to have him. Silver says he isn't sure, and his eyes land on Shadow, though he flinches when Shadow's eyes meet his. Shadow says that he gets it, too much bad blood, especially since he's not Silver's dad and isn't interested in fatherhood. Silver flinches harder as Sonic hisses. Shadow holds up a hand, eyes landing on Tails briefly before shifting back to Silver. He says that while he's not interested in being a father, he's never had a brother before. Silver looks at him in disbelief, and while the heartbreak is still clear on his face, his mouth raises in a shy smile. Silver says he never had a brother either, but trails off. Shadow says everything is too raw right now. Silver says yeah. That's when Blaze jumps in and says that Silver is welcome to come back with her to the soul dimension. Since he's from both, it's only fair he sees it in its full glory. She would be happy to host him. Silver smiles and says that he would like that. Rogue mutters that it's too much bad blood here, but not with the person he actually came closest to killing. Amy just shushes her. Silver smiles and tells everyone that he'll be back as he and Blaze leave. Shadow says nothing. Once the two are gone, Sonic can zip up to Shadow saying that he knew the man was a softie underneath all the angst, and that it looks like Sonic is rubbing off on him. With a tisks, Shadow runs off. Rogue calls after him, but Sonic laughs and tells her to let him go. Shadow has clearly reached his limit for emotional vulnerability. Then he asks Rogue if she needs a ride back home. She says yeah after a moment. Sonic tells his friends he thinks he'll take the scenic route before zipping off as well, yelling back that he'll see everyone back at home. This ending allows me to do 3 things. The first is dropping Silver constantly traveling back into the past to prevent some tragic future. That whole plot point is beyond overplayed in the comics, and I feel like IDW should just either commit and keep him in the past or actually figure out what to do with him in the future. There's some great storytelling potential in Silver being in a timeline he's not supposed to exist in, but like the writers, I want to keep Silver with the cast of characters so he stays in the present. The second is to maintain a deeper connection between Blaze and Silver. They're often paired up, but it just doesn't make sense since Blaze is from a different dimension. They have no history. I don't want to retcon that, especially since they keep that as her origin going forward. So she has Silver live with her from time to time when he's in the soul dimension. Number 3 is purely indulgent, which is to give Shadow a little buddy. I adore the big brother, younger brother dynamic between Sonic and Tails, and I want that for Shadow. Silver just makes the most sense. Outside of the DBZ illusions, it always surprised me that Shadow never seemed to take an interest in Silver, the only other hedgehog wearing inhibitor rings. You'd think it would be a no-brainer. I always got a sense Silver was artificially made as well, so I parallel those 2 more. What do you think? Did I cook?